How's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here with another video. Of course, with the Southern 500 being this weekend, it is time to now look at the throwback paint schemes for this year, with Throwback Weekend coming out again. Sad we know this year's race is not called the Bojangles Southern 500, as Bojangles ended their sponsorship with Darlington. It is now called the Cookout Southern 500. So it sounds like they're trying to have a fucking barbecue with this race, with the term cookout. And of course, we're still doing the Throwback Weekend this weekend, even with Darlington opening this year's chase for the COVID Cup. I mean Bill France Cup. Yeah, that's totally what I meant. So yeah, first time in 16 years that Darlington will be a chase race. So yeah, a number of the drivers in the chase will be also taking part in this year's Throwback Weekend. So yeah, with all that said, let's take a look at the throwback schemes and see how they all look this year. So the first throwback scheme we have here is Quinn House Throwback Scheme. For Quinn House Throwback Scheme, he's throwing it back to Milt Marion's 1936 Daytona Beach Course win paint scheme. So yeah, this is a long time ago. One of the first stock car races that ever happened in 1936 on the old Daytona Beach. Like 20 years before Daytona International Speedway became a thing. So yeah, really nice looking car, really good throwback. Thrown in way back. Way back. Almost 84 years back. Not a bad looking scheme. Quinn House, his talent hasn't been there on the track, but at least he has a really good paint scheme. Too bad he'll probably wreck it. And also, for these throwback schemes you see throughout this video, enjoy them while you can, because you see how good they all look in the picture? That's as good as they're gonna look come race time Sunday night. So the next paint scheme we got over here, we got Brad Keselowski's Discount Tire Scheme. This paint scheme, Keselowski is paying tribute to his 2010 Xfinity Championship scheme that he won the 2012 Xfinity Championship in, aka the final year that Cup leeches were allowed to compete for the Xfinity title. Yes, at one point, leeches competing and winning Xfinity titles were at one point a thing. Thank God fucking NASCAR fixed that. And it was during the Brian France era. Who would have thought? Damn. But yeah, you look at this paint scheme and honestly, it looks like his normal discount tire scheme. Like, you look at it, it's literally almost the same fucking thing. Just a couple minor differences. I think deep down, Brad Keselowski wanted to run his 2012 Cup Championship paint scheme with Miller Lite, but there's one little tiny problem with that. Miller Lite ended their relationship with Penske Racing earlier this year. Mainly once a couple months, like about a month or so after the pandemic, they came back from the pandemic. And yeah, that explains why Brad Keselowski's main sponsor recently, his primary, has been Discount Tire. Like, hell, when was the last time fucking Miller Lite ran a race at Keselowski? I think the last time was maybe the Coke 600. That was like maybe the last time I saw a Miller Lite scheme. Like, hell, fuck me. But yeah, maybe in the future they could do some throwbacks to like some old Discount Tire schemes or whatnot. Yeah, because normally the last few years, it's always been like a Miller Lite scheme, mainly to Rusty Wallace or anybody that's drove a Miller Lite paint scheme in the past. But hey, we just gotta take what we can get with this. The next throwback scheme we got here, we have Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon has paid tribute to Junior Johnson with his paint scheme, with the main theme this year being past champions. The one problem is that Junior Johnson, he's never won a Cup title in his career. However, Junior Johnson has been labeled, though, as the greatest NASCAR driver to never win a championship. And I know after saying that, all the Denny Hamlin fanboys are about to come storming to my room and tell me otherwise, or the Mark Martin fanboys. Next thing you know, Kamikaze Games is going to make another response to me, asking me what the fuck am I talking about. And then Kamikaze will make a 20-minute video explain how Mark Martin is the greatest driver to never win a cup title. Sorry, Kamikaze, hold my nuggets, it's Junior Johnson. But yeah, really nice paint scheme here. And of course, American Ethanol being the sponsor. So yeah, not bad for Rich RCR's part and for Austin Dillon. So yeah, nice paint scheme here for sure. So the next throwback scheme we have here is Kevin Harvick. His throwback scheme is the old Busch beer can design from 1997. His scheme also pays tribute to all the former Busch Series champions, back when the Xfinity Series used to be known as the NASCAR Busch Series. And that also means it pays tribute also to Harvick's 2001 and 2006 Busch Series titles. So in a way, it's kind of a double throwback. But yeah, it's still a nice looking car. Like this year for throwback schemes, Busch Beer has really thrown it out of the park with throwback schemes this year. Like, Jesus Christ, how many throwback schemes has Harvick ran this year? Holy fuck. But this might be the top of it all. That might be the cherry on top for it. And somehow I have a feeling that Busch is probably going to do one or two more throwbacks this year, knowing their track record. But yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme for Harvick this year, as Harvick now continues his path to win a second championship. Can Harvick close it out, or will he become the choker again? We'll find out in 10 races time. So the next paint scheme we got here, we have Ryan Newman's throwback paint scheme. Newman's throwback is a throwback to his old 1999 USAC Silver Crown Series scheme. So Newman throwing it back to his old days, to his old early days of racing, before Newman came into the Cup Series and became the Rocket Man. So yeah, really nice throwback, really good story behind it. You know, I always like the stories about drivers when they throw it back to their early days. You know, back when they were like in sprint cars or on dirt bikes or rally cars, you get the point. You know, their early days of racing when they were coming up through the ranks to get to where they are today. So yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme for Newman. Give it a lot of props. Easily one of my favorite paint schemes because of the I always like the schemes with the story behind it too. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. So the next throwback we have here, we have Josh Bilicki. Yes, it is Josh Bilicki in the 7 car this weekend. So Josh Bilicki's throwback scheme is a tribute to Tommy Baldwin Sr. and his early days of racing. You know, not a bad looking scheme, you know, really throwing it back. You know, also paying tribute to the memory of Tom Baldwin Sr. since it was 16 years ago that he passed away. So yeah, really good tribute to him and honor his memory. Hopefully that car can do more than just run 30th, but still, not a bad looking scheme. So the next scheme we have here, we have Tyler Reddick's throwback scheme. Reddick's throwback is a throwback to Jeff Burton's old Ray Bestos paint scheme from 1994. Jeff Burton's rookie year, so throwing it back to Jeffy B in the booth. And yeah, throwing it back to his old rookie scheme. So yeah, not a bad looking car. Really good color design there. Really love it, man. So yeah, Jeff Byrne is probably going to have a giant hard-on for in the booth when he sees that scheme. But yeah, not a bad looking car for Tyler Reddick. So the next paint scheme we have here, we have Chase Elliott's throwback scheme. So Chase Elliott's scheme is a throwback to Jimmy Johnson's 2009 Lowe's Championship winning paint scheme. And of course, on the 2009 paint scheme, that is like my favorite Jimmy Johnson paint scheme that he's ever ran out of all the schemes. Really love it. You know, throwing it back, of course, to Jimmy Johnson, since this is Jimmy Johnson's final season in the NASCAR Cup Series. And paying tribute to his championship winning paint schemes from his 7 titles. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. Really loved it. Really loved when Jimmy ran that scheme in 2009. So yeah, it's going to be great to see that scheme on track. Especially with Chase Elliott starting on the pole in that scheme. Since they did qualifying, and yeah, Chase Elliott's got the pole. So yay, we get to see that scheme lead the field to the green flag. Hooray. So the next throwback scheme we got Eric Almirola's throwback scheme. Eric's scheme is a throwback to Glenn Fireball Roberts' paint scheme that he ran in 1957. So also throwing it way back too. So yeah, really love this paint scheme, the color behind it, and paying tribute to the memory of Fireball Roberts. So yeah, really love this scheme. Good job to Almirola. Also, congrats to Eric Almirola on his extension with Stewart-Haas Racing. Because it's time that we mention that Stewart-Haas Racing has made a decision between Almirola and Clint Bowyer on who stays. Yeah, and it's sounding like Almirola is going to be the one that stays, as he has signed a 1-year extension with SHR, with Smithfield also coming back to remain the primary sponsor. So now it's sounding like Boyer's the odd man out because, you can't keep Chase Briscoe and Xfinity forever. And we all know Tony Stewart has a lot of interest in Kyle Larson. So it's going to be an interesting situation to see what happens with the 14 car now. So the next throwback scheme we have here, we got Denny Hamlin's throwback scheme. Hamlin's throwback scheme is a double tribute, as it not only pays tribute to Cale Yarborough's scheme that he ran at Darlington in 1973, it also pays tribute to FedEx's first year in business, back when it was known as Federal Express. As you can see on the car with the original logo and everything. So yeah, really good tribute. Pay tribute to the man that made the 11 car famous in Yarborough. And of course, Yarborough being the king of Darlington too, so makes sense too. And yeah, also paying tribute to FedEx when they first started out. A business that's still going strong to this day. Almost 47 years later. Getting close to 50. In a couple years, it'll be 50 years. So yeah, Hamlin also doing a really good throwback scheme too. So yeah, Hamlin's throwback schemes have really been really good though. Like, Hamlin's really had really good throwback schemes, to be perfectly honest. I've really loved a lot of Hamlin's schemes. So yeah, this adds on to the collection. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. So the next throwback scheme we got here, we have Ryan Blaney's throwback scheme. Ryan Blaney's throwback scheme is a tribute to Paul Menard's 2003 ARCA scheme, mainly the one Paul Menard won the Talladega race at. Back when ARCA didn't run 20-car fields at Talladega and ran an assload of cars. It's sad to see where the ARCA series is gone now. Like, that series is dead. That series is fucking dead now. It'll be fucking out of business in a few years, I guarantee it. But yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme. Paying tribute to, of course, Menards, which Paul Menard and his family owns. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. So the next throwback we got here, we have Clint Bowyer's throwback scheme. Bowyer's throwback scheme is a throwback to Kyle Petty's Rockingham scheme that he ran at in 1990, a race that Kyle Petty also won, by the way. So yeah, really nice looking scheme here back when Kyle Petty used to run Peak Oil as a sponsor. And yeah, they got Peak on as a sponsor for Quentin this weekend. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. Not bad at all. Nice car. Gotta love it, man. So the next throwback scheme we got here is Brendan Poole's throwback scheme. His throwback scheme is a tribute to Ricky Rudd's paint scheme that he ran in the mid-1980s. So yeah, paying tribute to Ricky Rudd's career. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. So yeah, Brendan Poole really throwing it back here despite... So yeah, not a bad looking car. Gotta love that scheme. So the next throwback scheme we have here is Kyle Busch's throwback scheme. Kyle Busch's throwback scheme is throwing it back to Elliott Sadler's old M&M's paint scheme that Elliott ran with Robert Yates Racing in the 38 back in 2004. They even have the same number font for that scheme too for Kyle Busch's car, especially with the 8. So yeah, I always loved that Elliott Sadler scheme. So yeah, really good to see this scheme being used as a throwback. Not bad. Now the Kyle Busch hater in me wants Kyle Busch to flip this car at Darlington. Because if he flips the car, then Kyle Busch will really be paying tribute to Elliott Sadler. when Sadler flipped at Talladega in 2003 and 2004. If Kyle did that, then he'd be really paying tribute to Elliott Sadler. But I guess a Crash or Darlington stripe is good enough too. But yeah, that's still not a bad looking scheme. I'll give Kyle Busch credit on this one. So the next scheme we got here, we have Martin Truex Jr.'s throwback scheme. So this throwback scheme is Truex throwing it back to the paint scheme that he ran in Xfinity in both of Truex's 2004 and 2005 Xfinity Championship years. Back when Truex drove for DEI, which is now Chip Ganassi. So yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme. Truex throwing it back to his early NASCAR days in racing when he ran in the Xfinity Series, back when it was known as the Busch Series. So yeah, I mean, the theme is past champions, and yeah, those are past championships Truex did run. I mean, though, if Truex ran his Cup scheme from 2017, that would be like too soon, that would be too recent. But yeah, nice throwback scheme for Truex here. So the next throwback scheme we got here, we have Eric Jones' throwback scheme. His throwback scheme is to a paint scheme that Tony Stewart ran at Martinsville in 2005. Of course, 2005 being one of Tony Stewart's championship seasons. So in a way, it's also throwing it back to Tony Stewart's championship years too, with the, like I said, the theme being past champions. So yeah, that counts too. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme here. Of course, instead of like the red, it was originally the orange, since back when Tony Stewart had Home Depot as a sponsor. But yeah, still not a bad looking scheme, paying tribute to the man's name, Smoke. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. And next throwback scheme we have here, we have Matt DiBenedetto's throwback scheme. So this throwback scheme is throwing it back to the Wood Brothers 21 cars old 1963 paint scheme. Specifically the paint scheme they won the 1963 Southern 500 in, and the scheme they won the 1963 Owners Championship in. Yes, the Owners Championship was still a thing back then, when Wood Brothers ran a partial schedule instead of running the full schedule like they do today. So yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme, another classic Wood Brothers car. But then again, the Wood Brothers running their normal Motorcraft paint scheme, that's normally a throwback in itself, since that's a scheme they've ran for like a long ass time in the sport. But yeah, every year, it's no surprise it's a Wood Brothers throwback scheme, considering that every year the 21 car runs at Darlington, they always do a throwback scheme to their long day, early days. Usually if it's like a David Pearson throwback or whatnot. So yeah, but still, seeing the iconic 21 paint scheme throwbacks, they're always a sight to behold. So yeah, really love this scheme, nice job. So the next throwback scheme we got here, we have Joey Logano's throwback scheme. Logano's scheme is a throwback to the paint scheme that Bobby Allison ran in 1985. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme, paying tribute to Bobby Allison, a former Cup champ, a former multi-time Cup champion. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme, really love the scheme here, really fits it too. So yeah, not a bad looking car. So the next throwback scheme we got here, we have William Byron's throwback scheme. Now, William Byron's is a throwback to Jimmy Johnson's Lowe's Patriotic scheme that Jimmy ran in 2013. This is also the scheme that Jimmy Johnson won the 2013 meaningless All-Star race in. So yeah, paying a tribute to old 7-time Jimmy Johnson. I really think William Byron should have ran, honestly, the 2010-2011 paint scheme that Jimmy ran. I think that would have been a better fit there too, and have Axalta as a sponsor. Or Liberty University, whatever you prefer. So yeah, I feel like not running the 2010-2011 scheme was a missed opportunity. Or the Cobalt scheme, I think the old Cobalt scheme that Jimmy ran from like 2007 to 2011. I think that was a missed opportunity too. But still, not a bad looking scheme too. I do love a lot of Jimmy Johnson's patriotic schemes. Especially the one Jimmy ran this year where he had the car look like a fucking tank. And also, during all this, I should announce that Hendrick Motorsports has decided to now also lock up their young future in the process with William Byron, as William Byron's win at Daytona was enough for Byron to earn himself a 2-year extension, with Byron staying in the 24 car till 2022. Also, Chase Elliott's been locked up long term, but Alex Bowman will still be in a contract year in 2021. So yeah, congrats to Byron on his extension, well deserved. And yeah, I think 2 years is reasonable, for him to prove himself. Maybe with the win Byron had at Daytona, maybe Byron can now start breaking out and living up to his potential. So yeah, gonna be interesting to see what happens with Byron in the coming years. But yeah, anyway, not a bad looking scheme. So the next paint scheme we have here, we got J.J. Yeley's throwback scheme. Yes, Yeley still exists. But anyway, Yeley's throwback scheme, it's a throwback to Kenny Irwin Jr.'s old Nerf paint scheme that I believe he ran in the late 90s. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was somewhere in the late 90s. Point is, it was like Kenny Irwin Jr.'s early years in racing. Also paying tribute to Irwin Jr., who tragically passed away in a crash. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. Of course, throwing it back to also Nerf's early days, when they first started off as a business selling toy guns to children. So yeah. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. Too bad J.J. Yeley will run at the back of the pack with that scheme, but still, not a bad looking scheme. So the next throwback scheme we have here, we got John Hunter Nemechek's throwback scheme. Now John Hunter, he's throwing it back to Elliott Sadler's paint scheme that he ran with the Wood Brothers back in 1999 and 2000. Elliott Sadler's first couple years in the Cup Series. So yeah, they're also doing a Wood Brothers tribute too. So yeah, it's a really good scheme though, but it's gonna be a little weird to see a Wood Brothers throwback scheme that doesn't have the iconic 21 on it. Gonna be a bit weird, but we'll get over and adjust to it. But still, not a bad looking scheme, John Hunter. Not bad. Part of me thought that he was gonna do a throwback scheme to his dad Joe Nemechek schemes, but I guess we'll have to wait another year on that one. Maybe it would be too soon to do that, but oh well, it is what it is. Anyway, not bad, let's move on. So the next throwback scheme we have here, we got Cole Custer's throwback scheme. Now Cole Custer's scheme is throwing it back to NASCAR Hall of Famer Curtis Turner's paint scheme that he ran in 1965. So yeah, really nice car, really love the color with it too, really matches well. Not a bad looking car, paying tribute to a Hall of Famer too. So yeah, not a bad looking car, Cole. Not bad at all. So the next throwback scheme we have here, we have my favorite throwback paint scheme out of all of the throwback schemes this year. Easily my favorite by a country mile. We have Jimmy Johnson's throwback scheme. Oh boy. Now Jimmy Johnson's throwback scheme is a double throwback. Throwing it back, paying tribute to both Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt, the other two 7-time champions in this sport. So Jimmy Johnson, being a 7-time champion himself, is going to be also paying tribute to the other two men he shares the mountaintop with. And of course, in this paint scheme, you got the traditional Dale Sr. Man in Black Intimidator black colors, and you got Richard Petty's old Petty blue and red stripes on there. And of course, you have the Ally where the SPP normally is. And for this paint scheme, it's very interesting because Jimmy Johnson has two different number fonts on this car too. He has the old Petty number font on the car, and then on the Petty paint scheme, and then on the Dale Sr. paint scheme, he has the Dale Sr. style number font. So yeah, that's really interesting to see here. Now, I think this paint scheme may have caught everybody off guard because when it was shown out, everyone was like, wait, you can do throwbacks to 2 drivers? And I did check the rules for it. It doesn't say you can throw back to 1 driver. I believe the rule states that you can throw back to as many drivers as you want. But yeah, it's still not a bad looking paint scheme at all. I think this will open the door in the future for other drivers if they want to do a double throwback to 2 different drivers. But yeah, not a bad paint scheme at all. Jimmy Johnson really going all out in his final year on throwback schemes. So all I say is to Busch Beer, if everyone wants to crown Busch Beer the throwback scheme king, I say hold my nuggets. Jimmy Johnson may have some competition for you. So you may want to hold off on the crown just there. But yeah, not a bad looking scheme at all. So the next throwback scheme we have here, we got Joey Gase's throwback scheme. Joey Gase's scheme is paying tribute to Bobby Allison. Since, of course, like I mentioned again, the theme is past champions. So yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme. Another Bobby Allison throwback. Really love these Allison throwbacks. So yeah, not bad. Even though Joey Gage drives for a shit show team in Rick Ware Racing that owns now how many fucking cars in the field just to run at the back and siphon cash out of the NASCAR. But still, not a bad looking scheme. I'll give Gase and them a lot of credit. Not bad. So the next throwback scheme we have here, we have Timmy Hill's scheme. Now, Timmy Hill's scheme, he's throwing it back to Phil Farson's Skull Bandit paint scheme that Phil ran in 1984. So yeah, really love the color and the numbers fonting and coloring to it. Really nice looking paint scheme. I really love the Skull cars a lot. Mainly the ones that Ken Schrader ran. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme. Really love it. Not bad, Timmy. So the next paint scheme we have here, we have Ross Chastain's throwback scheme. And yes, Chastain is in the 77 this week. So anyway, Chastain's throwback scheme, he's throwing it back to Dale Sr.'s paint scheme that he ran in 1976. I believe that was Dale Sr.'s rookie season. So yeah, paying tribute to the man, the myth, the legend, the Intimidator himself, Dale Earnhardt. So yeah, nice looking car from Chastain. Here's hoping that this Sunday Chastain is not as much of a jackass behind the wheel as he was last week in Xfinity at Daytona. But yeah, not bad, Chastain, not bad. So the next throwback scheme we have here, we have Alex Bowman's throwback scheme. So for Bowman's scheme, Bowman is paying tribute by throwing it back to Jimmy Johnson's Lowe's paint scheme that he ran from 2006 to 2008. Of course, this was the paint scheme Jimmy won the Cup titles in 2006 and 2007, the start of Jimmy's 5 straight championship wins. Now, technically, Jimmy did win the 2008 title in the Lowe's Cobalt Tool scheme. However, Jimmy also did run this paint scheme at that 2008. This was his primary scheme. It was that one time where Jimmy ran at Homestead and not in his primary scheme. That in 2018 when he did that throwback scheme at Homestead to his rookie paint scheme. Since 2018 was the last year Jimmy had sponsorship from Lowe's. But still, paying tribute to Jimmy Johnson's first taste of success in the Cup Series. Throwing it back to that paint scheme. Really love that scheme. You know, Hendrick Motorsports did a really good job with the Hendrick throwback schemes. I still think the missed opportunity was either the Cobalt Tool scheme from 2007 to 2011. And I feel like another missed opportunity was the scheme Jimmy ran in 2010 and 2011. I feel like those two schemes were missed opportunities. But yeah, it is what it is still. Not a bad looking car for Bowman. So the next throwback scheme we're going to go over here, we have Christopher Bell's throwback scheme. So for Christopher Bell's throwback scheme, as you see in the photo, Christopher Bell is throwing it back to his 2017 Trucks paint scheme that he ran the Truck Series, the year that Christopher Bell won the truck title with KBM Motorsports. So yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme. Throwing it back to Christopher Bell's first early days in NASCAR. His first taste of success in NASCAR period with the truck title. Too bad he couldn't get an Xfinity title. Then again, the chase grid is fucking stupid. Like, chase grid's so fucking inconsistent. But that's a rant for a different day. But yeah, still, not a bad looking paint scheme. Roy loved it. For the 95 car Levine Family Racing, I feel like a missed opportunity from in their time, since this is Levine's final year in NASCAR and they sold their charter to Aspire Motorsports. But yeah, part of me feels like this was a missed opportunity to do a Lightning McQueen throwback too in the last couple years. I felt like they should have done a throwback scheme to Lightning McQueen. You know, especially when Cars 3 came out. I still feel like a McQueen throwback was a missed opportunity. But yeah, still, not a bad looking scheme. Not bad. And the final throwback scheme I have here, the final scheme we will be talking about in this video, we have Daniel Suarez's throwback scheme. So for Suarez, this scheme is throwing it back to Suarez's Xfinity paint scheme that he ran in 2016. The year Suarez shocked the world and won the Xfinity Championship. officially making Daniel Suarez the first Latin American driver to win a NASCAR championship of any kind across all 3 series. And it's unfortunate to see where Suarez has fallen since then. Part of me felt like, though, he was rushed up the cup too quickly, but then again, Carl Edwards' shocking retirement caught everyone off guard. So yeah, baptism by fire there. But yeah, not a bad looking paint scheme for Suarez, and Suarez even got Eris to come back as a sponsor for that too, so there's a bonus there. You know, to help some money there to help the Gaunt brothers to a small car team. You know, not a bad looking paint scheme for Suarez. I've always liked these schemes. I mainly loved this scheme more when Carl Edwards ran this scheme from 2015 and 2016. So yeah, not a bad looking scheme at all. Really love it. Not bad, Suarez. But yeah, anyway, that's going to wrap it up here for the 2020 Darlington Throwbacks paint scheme reaction video. So yeah, a lot of really good paint schemes too. So yeah, some nice cars that are going to look good on the track on Sunday night. So yeah, not some bad looking paint schemes. Of course, there are a couple paint schemes that haven't been announced, especially on Bubba Wallace's. The 40, Matt Kenseth hasn't even announced the throwback for the 42 either. Or Kurt Busch. So yeah, that's interesting though. I imagine there's going to be some more throwback schemes, but we won't see them until like the last minute. So yeah, and for Bubba Wallace's, I imagine Bubba Wallace is probably going to do another Richard Petty throwback scheme, since that seems to be the theme with the 43 car, since Richard Petty made that 43 car famous. So yeah, I imagine that. And even when Bubba Wallace, if he does do a throwback scheme and reveals it, the boomers will still find a way to fucking bitch about it and blame Bubba Wallace for everything. Because they still haven't let go of the Confederate flag being banned. Like, seriously, you boomers, you need to fucking grow up. Seriously. But yeah, that's a rant for a different day. But yeah, some nice looking cars here. Like I mentioned before, my favorite throwback scheme out of all of them is Jimmy Johnson's, with him paying tribute to both Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. My least favorite would probably be Brad Keselowski, since his throwback scheme looks like his normal discount tire scheme. So yeah, what are your favorite what are your favorite paint schemes? What's your least favorite? Let's debate down in the comments. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Hope everyone's a great day, and yeah, get a good look at those cars, because like I mentioned earlier in the video, that's as good as they're gonna look come race time Sunday night. Peace out.